So I watched this Andrew Moon. Andrew Moon was on Capturing Christianity, answering questions about Reformed epistemology. Then I noticed that Pine Creek Doug started streaming it in real time. So what I usually do is it's far more fruitful to me to watch it through the eyes of him and his audience than it is to watch it cold. So it's more interesting, and it's actually potentially a lot more fruitful because you see not just what the guy's saying, but how it's being interpreted by people who don't share the belief. So I find it particularly useful. So when I notice that that's happening, I always do it. I always go and watch it through Pine Creek's eyes, and then, read the stuff in the live chat, see how the atheists are responding to what's being said. So there's basically a kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of what is being argued by Planager when it comes to Reformed epistemology. Part of this was Andrew Moon's fault. He went down a couple of side alleys and he threw under the category of properly basic beliefs things that actually cannot be decided as properly basic. And then some of it is actually Planager's fault because while it's an excellent first start, it isn't quite getting us to where we need to go when it comes to rationally justifying your belief in something like God. So that mouthful being said, let's take a look-see. Now, the first thing that happens is that people are not understanding what is meant by basic and properly basic. It is much more of they'll say, well, it feels like God. That's your argument. It feels like God, therefore it's right. Therefore it's God, and therefore you're right. Now, let's take it in a context that all of you can clearly understand, because one of the things that Doug brought up, which he brings up a lot, and almost every atheist I've ever known goes, this is a really huge, he said something like, I have the strongest possible defeater, millions of defeaters all over the world. So what Andrew Moon was saying and what properly basic beliefs argue for is that you are rationally justified to believe in that which you clearly perceive, absent defeaters. Okay? And what Pine Creek said is there are millions of defeaters, and he puts into the category of defeaters religious experiences all over the world, people who think they're hearing from God, and they're basically not. They're Hindus or they're Muslims. Now, that's totally misunderstanding the point. So, let's try and clarify, put it in a way that we can all clearly understand it. There are plenty of things, Pine Creek Doug, if you are listening, you probably not, but Nathan might be, or Aaron, one of them will be. There are plenty of things that you decide on the basis of it seems to you true. It seems really true. I perceive it as such, therefore it is such, and you are perfectly reasonable to do so. There are some things you may not be, but let's just stick to things that you can decide that way through a process that is basic and properly basic. Pine Creek is married to his wife, for example. Now, from what I gathered just on little bits of information I've gotten about his relationship to his wife, my guess is it's a pretty strong relationship. His wife is a Christian, and just from the things I've picked up, he seems to have a lot of respect for his wife, or a lot of fondness for his wife, or respect for the institution of marriage. That's just how it seems to me. Now, I could be wrong about that. Well, I don't have a lot of information. I've only heard him mention her a few times. I was surprised to find out that she's a Christian. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that Pine Creek Doug really trusts his wife in terms of her fidelity and her loyalty to him. How would he have arrived at that conclusion? There is no other way that he could have arrived at the conclusion that his wife is loyal and trustworthy. No reliable methodology, no reliable form of argumentation. There's nothing else that could have given him the information that he needs to process that clearly except his direct experience of her. She seems to me really loyal and seems to me really faithful, and it seemed like that for well nigh 10 years. That seems to be part of her basic character. There's no way on earth, if I were asking him about his wife, and I said, Doug, is your wife loyal to you? And he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure she is. How do you know, Doug? I'll pull a Doug on Doug. How do you know, Doug? He goes, I just said to you. That's why I told him his question was incoherent. Why? Because he would answer me, it really honestly seems to me like she is, Craig. I've been living with her for 10 years or 20 years, and her basic character seems to be loyal, and it's just not in her to cheat on me. Could you be wrong, Doug? That's exactly what he'd ask me. How do I know? Could you be wrong? Those questions are not necessarily coherent. They're not. First of all, it'd be very presumptuous of me to tell him anything about his wife. Why? Because I haven't met her, I don't know her. And it'd be really, really fatuous of me to go, Doug, don't you understand that there are troubled marriages all over the world, Doug? And he'd go, yeah, well, you don't think their marriages are happy? And those people have confidence in their wife, therefore you should doubt your wife. That's what he's arguing to me. That's what he's arguing to me. I am telling I have a direct experience that really honestly feels to me like God. And I have that experience every day of my life. And I've been having it for 20 years. And he will turn around and literally say to me, you should doubt yourself. Why? Because there are people all over the world. It's what I call the Jesus in the burrito argument. Jesus is appearing in a burrito in Mexico right now as we speak, Craig. Okay, and you don't believe that guy. Therefore, you don't believe in your own experiences. It is completely and utterly rational to form opinions and beliefs based off of your own experience. To not do so would be insane. And there is no such thing in some cases as arguments to the contrary. Why? Because they aren't your experience. They don't matter. They don't count. Your experience of your wife in this particular situation would be 100 times more important to the conclusions you formulate about your wife and her basic character than any argument under the sun. The arguments would be irrational, idiotic. Think of how ludicrous it would be to argue for Doug that he shouldn't trust his wife. Why? Do you know the stats on infidelity, Doug? He goes, but you don't understand. Why don't I understand, Doug? Your wife could be cheating on you. A real defeater for his wife's basic character would be some evidence of her infidelity. So if this is a little bit confusing, I'm not intending it to be. So let's put it in the context of my own wife. Okay? My wife is extraordinarily loyal to me. I trust her almost completely when it comes to infidelity. I actually probably trust her completely. And I have for a long time. Now, it's not just, it seems to me loyal. Could I be wrong? I guess. But honestly, I'm pretty aware of my wife's whereabouts on any daily basis. So it'd be really hard for me to see her cheating on me in her basic character. She's been loyal from day one, and I noticed that right off the bat because I've had girls cheat on me. So, and she's a really good-looking woman, so she got hit on a lot every time we go out. Every time we go out, somebody be hitting on my wife. Swear to God. But how she handled them told me a lot. One guy went up to a bar in her Manhattan and started, she was there ordering drinks, and I was waiting, he couldn't see me. And he starts saying, you shouldn't be with that guy, you should be with me. Yeah, I was like deconverted, man. You shouldn't be with that clown. You don't know nothing, baby. You should come with me. She didn't even acknowledge it. She didn't even talk to him. She didn't even look at him. She didn't make us. She swear to God, she just completely ignored him as if he wasn't even talking. And then came back and I said, what happened? She said, I didn't even say anything to him. I didn't acknowledge him. I didn't answer him. She didn't do anything. So that made a big impression on me, a big sensory impression on me. I'm like, wow, this person can be trusted when it comes to that type of thing. Because I've seen unfaithful women in the past, and they do different stuff. They get flattered when people come on to them. They start entertaining it. She didn't even give it 1 minute didn't even entertain the process for 1 second. Other women who were unfaithful, in my experience, my direct experience of dating other girls who had been unfaithful, is when somebody started hitting on them, they started flirting with them, playing along, and trying to make you jealous. She didn't even talk to him. So that made a big impression on me. And that was just the first one. Then over the course of the years, a lot of that stuff happened. And I trusted her basically so much. She would go sing karaoke with her mother on Saturday nights. I never really felt like going with them. She'd be out in the bar till 2 in the morning. She probably got hit on 50 times. Never even thought about it. Never even entered my mind she's cheating on somebody. She would cheat on me. Why? It's because in my experience of her, it was contrary to my basic experience of her character and who she is. And that experience had been developed over years of me observing her. I basically studied her, and I knew her pretty well. Now, there's more to it than that. Could she have been cheating on me? It's even hard to imagine where she would have, how she would, because I know her whereabouts most of the time, not because I'm snooping on her. Like she went out last Saturday, she comes home at 11 o'clock. She's got a burrito for me. We sit down and talk about what just happened, and everything checks out. I'm not checking up on her. She's just like, oh, me and my friends, we went to this thing in Beverly Hills, and then we went and had lunch and blah, blah, blah. And, we're just chatting about our day. But all of it corresponds to reality. Now that's a properly basic belief, and he probably has the same properly basic belief about the character and integrity of his wife, based off of his direct experience of her, because she seems, and she has seemed to him over a period of years, really loyal and faithful. Now, I don't know for a fact if that's his experience of his wife. I'm just guessing from, he seems to me somewhat devoted to his wife, or at least devoted to the institution of marriage. He really does. I just get a sense that there's, I don't know, some love and respect there, or some fondness for her, or maybe it's the institution itself. Don't know, but I sense some emotional commitment to his marriage that I would venture to say is probably strong. I could be wrong. I don't know him that well, and I don't know his wife at all. I could be wrong. When I've made guesses like that in the past, sometimes I got it wrong. I could be wrong about that. That's not something that I am. What you are acting like is that my inference of God is based on that little information. I heard about God a couple of times and went to a church once, and it seemed to me like God was there, and now I believe in God. No, I've experienced what seems to me like God really powerfully and real to me in ways that are really powerful and real to me every single day of my life for the past 20 years. And my experience of what seems to me like God corresponds to other human beings' experience of the same entity or being. They have identical experiences to me and identical inferences. Could I be wrong becomes somewhat of an incoherent question. Why? Because I could be wrong about how I'm attributing the experience. I understand that. But could I be wrong about the experience itself? No, not at all. That's not even a coherent question. As I've said, Doug does his he used a different one in this particular video, his pen dropping thing. It's my claims are experiential claims. What inference you want to draw from the experience I'm talking about is entirely up to you. And I'm not demanding that you think it's God, and I'm certainly not demanding that you think it's a Christian God. I am just telling you that I'm completely rationally justified to believe in that which I clearly perceive based on my experiences. That is how you formulate your deeply held beliefs. And if you aren't formulating them that way, there's something wrong. Because you can't trust other arguments as much as you can trust your own direct experience of something really important. That's why I went to a wife. Why? It's really important to me. There is, outside of my religious experience, there is nothing more important to me than my relationship with my wife. And there is nothing more important than basic loyalty. And I've decided over a period of years watching her very closely with how she interacted with other men. You sound like a real jealous type. Yeah, don't you dare cross me, woman. I guess I am. I'd been burned once or twice in the past. I'm just telling you, I watch my wife really closely. Why? Because the relationship is really important to me. So I basically study her. And I've studied her for years. And in a lot of ways, I know her really well. And I draw impressions of her all the time. And I think about those impressions and I pray over those impressions, trying to decide what her basic character is. And one of the things I decided a long time ago, she's bone loyal. So I've never questioned her loyalty, and I have never had any reason to. So there is no defeater. What Doug is trying to argue is that there are some other defeaters based on other people's marriages outside of my experience. There aren't. That's an insane thought process, an irrational thought process, an illogical thought process. Think of it in terms of with Doug. What is he to base his interpretation of the character of his wife on other than how she seems to him? Nothing coherent. If I said, Doug, you realize how many marriages fail because the wife seemed loyal, but isn't? Therefore, that's what's happening in your marriage. It may be, but I'm assuming, because we are epistemic peers, I'm assuming that he is actually trying to perceive accurately about his wife. Why? Because I'm assuming it's really important to him. Now, if I interacted with him and I got other reads about how his marriage is, like I got the feeling that he didn't really like his wife, or didn't really... what you infer from your direct experience from something is really important evidence. Really important evidentially to what you decide about life. If you aren't paying attention to what you discern as properly basic, you aren't really reading things accurately. Some things cannot be decided by argumentation. It's not Christians trying to sidestep argumentation. They cannot be decided by that. Why? Because they are too important. They can't. I can't make arguments about the character of women out there in the real world and how many of them are disloyal and have those arguments mean anything to Pine Creek Doug. He would have to base his basic beliefs about his wife on his interaction with his wife and with his wife alone. If he's basing it on anything else, he's going to be misled and deceived. Because it's his wife, it's interactions with her and her alone, on which his trust in her should ultimately stand or fall. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that you guys are all going to agree with me yet. If you're an atheist, listen to it, calm down. I know you already got some stupid argument lined up. Calm down. No, I don't. How'd you know, Craig? I can feel it. I can feel it. You never make it easy. You never make it easy. This should be easy to explain this stuff to you. And you guys make it like pulling teeth, and that's on you. I swear to God you do, and that's on you. And I swear to God, a lot of you do it. Not all of you, but a huge chunk of you. I don't know what I said that wasn't 100% perfectly said, but if you say something to atheists that isn't 100% perfectly said, they latch onto that little thing. Oh, here's this little snippet that you said that's wrong, and this is why that's wrong. Okay, not the point. Every single one of you listening to me, including all of you atheists, get the basic idea, correct? Correct. Ask yourself a question if you automatically jump to some sort of ludicrous, inauthentic defeater, because if you're an atheist, you probably did. How do I know that? Because my experience of dealing with atheists, that's what you do almost all the time. And that's on you. Swear to God, that's what you do almost all the time, and that's on you. Shouldn't be doing that at all, ever. Why? Because if I'm right, you should be steel-manning me and trying to make it easy for me to prove to you that I'm right. You shouldn't be defensive at all. Why? The only thing we should be caring about is what's true. Am I right? I'm telling you the truth about my experience. Most of you give me that. No atheist has ever accused me of lying. Well, one has. One has. But that's important. Why? Because they've accused everybody else of lying, including Inspired Philosophy. They accuse him of lying every single time he makes a video. You see, oh, here he goes, lying for Jesus again. Watch him when he's in debate. Look at the comments. 500 of them accuse him of lying. Everyone does. Better channel than you have, Craig. I understand that. I didn't say it wasn't. He does a lot more research than me. You know, first of all, he's got more time to do research, and second of all, I'm not going to do research even at the time. Why? Because I just won't. It's just not my basic, not in my character. It's not how I roll, guys. It's not what this channel is about. You want well-researched videos, you know, go watch Inspiring Philosophy. They're well-researched. What I am arguing for, something deeply important to you, okay? You have no better truth-finding mechanism than your basic perceptions. Now, your basic perceptions can be wrong, and they do need to be verified and tested for. That's part of why you talk to other human beings. The Bible even tells you to do this. There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors, which means you talk to other people about what you're experiencing. And then you do the same basic inferential process when you're talking to other people. Try to feel them out. If they think that you're wrong and you're crazy, are they someone that can be trusted? Do they have an agenda? That's a really important point. When you are dealing with somebody, particularly if you're an atheist or a Christian, and we're dealing in this space where we disagree about something that's fundamentally basic, that informs our every waking hour, more or less, agendas are going to come up. Confirmation biases are going to be part and parcel of the experience of everybody on both sides, Christian and atheist. But if you're an atheist, you shouldn't have them at all. You should be correcting for them all the time. Why? Because it's more important that you do that than that a Christian does it. You have assigned to them the burden of proof. We are trying to prove something to you. So you should make it easy for us if we're correct. You should be steel-manning us all the time. All the time. Not some of the time, all the time. I get it. There's a lot of what you think are defeaters out there for Christianity. They aren't defeaters for the ontology. They aren't defeaters for the proposition God exists. I go into this a lot, but it needs to be said. Why? Because most of the things that you think are defeaters aren't. Old Testament has all these terrible scriptures that God induced an abortion. It's irrelevant to the proposition God. But God induced an abortion, Craig. Explain that one to me. I don't have to. Why? I didn't write the Bible. I swear to God I didn't. I didn't. I don't have to justify why God prompted abortion. You should be made to eat water, Craig. I forget the exact. You know which one I'm talking about. I forget it. That's inane. Why? Because it's irrelevant. To what? To the proposition God exists. Use your critical thinking skills, please. Stop bragging about them all the time. If you won't take them out of the closet and use them every once in a while. God exists, and there can be challenging scriptures in the Old Testament. Yes or no? Ask yourself that one question. Yes or no? That should settle it all once and for all. Did you hear me correctly? God exists. Is that proposition true? No, it's not true. How do you know? Because there are challenging scriptures in the Old Testament. Those are irrelevant to each other. Both those things can be true at the exact same time. But there are challenging scriptures in the New Testament too, Craig. Okay, fine, fair enough. I swear to God there are, Craig. Jesus said, I come to bring a sword. Is he killing everybody now? Jesus is so violent. Okay, that's not the best interpretation in the world, but okay. No, it's really not. It's not a very good interpretation of that scripture, but whatever. He's so violent. He said he's bringing the sword to earth. He's going to kill us all. I thought it was funny. I really did. No, I really did think that was funny. But okay, so just recognize most of the things. If you're an atheist listening to me, I've heard a lot of you say this. I really do care if God exists, but then all the defeaters come up. Most of the defeaters that you are calling defeaters don't defeat. They have nothing to do with the proposition God exists. You want to clearly understand this? Write the proposition God exists on a piece of paper and write down your defeaters. I'm not going to be there with you. I'm not going to argue against them. Write down the defeaters and go, can both these things be true at the same time? Duh. Hello? Hello? I'm a better critical thinker than you are. Because you should have done that a long time ago. I swear to God, do that. God induced an abortion in the Old Testament. Can that be true? If, let's just say for argument's sake, that's true. He did. He induced an abortion. He told her to drink mud water, something like that. Okay, can that be true, and can God exist at the exact same time? The answer is going to be yes. Or ask yourself. The answer is yes. Spoiler alert. The answer is yes. Both those things can be true at the exact same time. Therefore, it is not a defeater for the proposition God exists. It has nothing to do with atheism at all. Inauthentic defeaters, guys, stop using them. You say that you are the king and queen of critical thinking. I beg to differ. Why? Because your critical thinking skills from where I sit are usually poor. Stuff that I can point out easily that have nothing to do with what we're talking about, you bring up all the time as if it's relevant and don't seem to notice it's not relevant. Why? Because your critical thinking skills are lacking. Because you have an agenda. Because you're propagandists for the most part. Propaganda. Propaganda is the enemy of critical thinking. Why? It's reinforcing a narrative. Does not care at all what's true, has already decided what's true, and is just reinforcing a narrative. Most of your atheist talking points are doing that. Promise. Promise. I'm not looking at anybody in particular. I just promise you that's true. I swear to God on everything that is true. That's the God's honest truth. Most of your atheist talking points that you have argued are defeaters for Christianity. They may be defeaters for some aspects of Christianity, sure. That particular one, is it a defeater for the proposition that the Bible is inerrant? Probably pretty good defeater for that. But it's not a defeater for the proposition God exists. Write it's very easy to decide it for yourself. No one will be there. I won't be there arguing with you. I don't really care what you wind up believing. All I want is your tithes. That's it. It's the only thing I'm in this for is the tithes. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. Write the proposition God exists on a piece of paper, then write your defeaters. Write all 10 of them, or all 15 of them, however many you think there are. Problem of evil, negative scriptures in the Old Testament. It's only one or two that are actual contradictory to the proposition God exists. And even in those one or two, you're making a big stretch. Write them. I don't know what they are. I can guess why, because almost all of you say the exact same thing. Almost all of you say the same ones John Steingrad used, and the same ones that Rhett and Link used, and the same ones that most of you will say. Challenging scriptures in the Old Testament, challenging scriptures in the use of blah, blah, blah. I don't know exactly what they are. Write the proposition God exists, write the defeaters down, and see if they actually both of them, and ask yourself this one really important critical thinking skills question. Can both of these things be true at the exact same time? Yes, will probably be the answer 8 out of 10 of them, 9 out of 10 of them, which means they are not defeaters. That's it. It's that simple. They're not defeaters. Why? Because they can both be true at the same time. You could be more nuanced in your approach to this than you have chosen to be. Propaganda is the enemy of critical thinking. Why? Because it takes a narrative and just tries to reinforce the narrative. It is not critical thinking. It is the opposite. It's trying to get you foamed up. But Aaron Ra is the king of the atheists, correct? There's the 3 A-list. I'm almost out of time. All right. I'm on a roll, though. This is fun. It doesn't sound fun. You're shouting again. Well, that's what I do when I'm having fun. I'm telling you, what do you want? We shout when we're having a good time. Talk with our hands, too. That's stereotype, but it's stereotype based on reality. I've come to accept it over the years. Aaron Ra is the king of the atheists, right? There are 3 main A-listers, debatably 4. Seth Andrews, Aaron Ra, Matt Dillahunty, debatably, what's his name? The street epistemologist guy. What's his name? Magabasco. Mañana. Antonio Magabasco. Hey, why are you doing so many counter-apologetics all the time? Sit down, eat some of the lasagna. Seem like such a nice boy. Why you don't believe in God no more? I don't even know if he's Italian. It sounds like an Italian name. Why you don't believe in God no more? Come on, Anthony. Have some more lasagna. So, those are the A-listers. Of those A-listers, Aaron Ra is almost pure propaganda. Almost pure, all he does, foam at the mouth about Christianity, bring up irrelevant details about Christianity, pretend like it's relevant to the proposition God exists. It isn't. Never is. And again, I'll say this one more time and then I'll wrap it up in a pretty little package. I apologize for going down the little sideshows, but, whatever. It's fun. Enjoy yourself. Lighten up. Lighten up. Say this one last time because this is important. I've heard this out of a lot of atheists' own mouth. I try to believe in God again, but there are so many defeaters for Christianity. Really, really, really think about it. Write down on a piece of paper the proposition God exists and write your 10 defeaters down. If you want, write 20 down. And then really ask yourself, honestly, nobody's going to be there looking at you. I don't care what you believe. All I want is your tithes. Ask yourself, can both of these things, both of these propositions be true at the exact same time? The answer is going to be yes. Promise. Spoiler alert. Why? Because there's only one or two of which that can be argued no. It's only one or two. Problem of natural evil. That's about it. And maybe one or two others. But can there be violent negative scriptures in the Old Testament and God exists at the exact same time? Yes. The answer is yes. The answer is obviously yes. Can the Old Testament endorse slavery and God exists at the same time? Yes. The answer is yes. The answer is obviously yes. Do you understand? No. Okay, well, it's intense. Stop considering yourself the smartest people in town. It's just that simple. Maybe some of you understand. Try it. Try it out. You'll be a lot less confident in your position if you do, and you should be challenged. You should be steel manning Christians all the freaking time. And that doesn't mean steel man the one guy you know who is weak. Stop dealing with the weak, insignificant Christians. Go to the powerhouse Christians. The Stephanies. Get him, Stephanie. Woo, what's your this? Never mind. I won't do it. All right. I was going to do my little Stephanie impression. Everybody loves it. I know. Everyone enjoys it. But there you have it, kids. That is all for now. Mass has ended. Another slam dunk of video, you ask me. But what do I know? Just a YouTuber. Just a humble little YouTuber apologist. I really thought this one nailed it. So there you have it, kids. Mass ended. Go in peace. Amen.